Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 24th, and this is the second video today. I'm doing another one here just to give you a quick update on what's going on, and I may not do one tomorrow morning because I may be out chasing some of the snowfall here and trying to record it. And if I do, I will live stream that and try to get some of that footage out there for you guys to enjoy as well. But you can see this colder air that's been moving off the continent here for the last couple of days, spawning this low pressure center here. We're getting some strong winds up to the northern portions here, northwest interior, across some of the San Juans, out towards some of the islands, Vancouver Island, some low elevation snowfall being reported out there towards Vancouver Island as well. The snow is starting to pick up across the mountains. As you can see, this fetch of moisture, it's running into Oregon, Washington, and back up into BC as we speak. Let's dive into the details. Last couple of days I've been mentioning this cold air comes off the continent over the warmer water and back into Washington and Oregon there. So kind of an ocean effect snowfall event there. And you can kind of see that trajectory of the air as it comes off the coast. You get cyclogenesis, and you can see that on the satellite imagery there, the low pressure system over the relatively warm water, and it brings that moisture back in. Then that surface low is going to move across Washington and actually bring an easterly component that's going to bring some heavy amounts of the east slopes of the Cascades here as we go on into tomorrow morning as well. I'll show you what I mean on that. Now, taking a look at some of the winds have been gusting out here across some of the Fraser River Gap, and Saturna Island, I believe, was gusting up towards 47 miles per hour. Some nice gusty winds, I think 36 miles per hour for Whidbey Island. Some strong winds occurring across some of the San Juans here and out towards some of Vancouver Island as well here. But yeah, the Fraser River outflow is going now. You can see some gusts into the mid 30s here ongoing as we speak right now. And you can see we do have all these current hazards up. The winter storm warning is still in effect for the North Cascades, Central Cascades, winter weather advisories in purple, and winter storm warnings all the way across Idaho, Montana here. Some winter storm watches still in effect for eastern Montana. You can see the freeze warning up here in the blue for some of eastern Washington and Oregon also. Now, this is looking at the NAM, hot off the presses, the 0Z run, and we have had a couple of lightning strikes around the area, and that could continue on as we go through tomorrow. You can see it destabilizing quite a bit here across some of Oregon as we go through tomorrow afternoon, and that's highlighted a bit here in the SPC. You can see for today they had along the coastal area there. We did have a few lightning strikes up a little bit inland here as well. And for tomorrow, you can see they did extend it all the way through Oregon into Idaho, also including the coastal areas of Oregon. Now, this is looking at the NAM 3km 80-meter wind speed. Check it out. Look at this wind just bursting out of the Fraser River Gap here across some of the islands, just kind of clipping the northern portion of the San Juan Islands there and kind of moving into Vancouver Island. But you can see the easterly component across some of Whidbey Island here, and a little bit of westerlies here. So you got westerlies, easterlies, and northeasterlies there. And the low pressure system is right about here off the coastline, and it watches it marches in. You can see that easterly component, and that's what's going to help bring some heavy snowfall to the eastern portions of the Cascades of Washington. And you can see that low kind of move down the coastline here, and then the northerlies finally take over Washington as we go on into tomorrow night and start to cool things down. Now watch what happens. Let's see if the NAM goes out far enough. Yes, you can see it. You can see that little bit of a burst we get here, some reinforcement with some Arctic air as we go on in through Friday morning. So things are going to stay chilly, especially in the overnight lows as we go on in through the weekend coming up here. More on that here in a moment. Looking at total snow accumulation on the HER, the 3km. This is hot off the presses here, and you can see that snowfall piling up, especially going into tomorrow morning. And you see some areas off to the east of Lake Chelan here. This is lower elevations here, picking up some big amounts of that easterly component, helping that upslope flow. And you can see some bigger amounts, especially off to the east of like Stevens Pass up here and across some of the higher terrain, all the way down through the Cascades of Oregon. And check it out, some of the hilltops there across the Oregon range here in southwest Washington, picking up a little bit of snowfall there as well. And maybe a little bit of snowfall for Spokane, an inch or two. Can't be ruled out. Probably somewhere around an inch of snow, maybe in the Blue Mountains. And of course, the higher terrain, Idaho and Montana, expecting a big storm as well. We'll go over that in a bit of detail. But this area out here, Highway 2, Farmer, Coulee City, Wilbur, Creston, you guys could be getting some snowfall out here and some gusty winds here as well. So heads up for that. And especially once you get into the higher terrain here, just outside of Chelan, on both sides of Lake Chelan here, some big snowfall amounts outside of Wenatchee and Leavenworth out there, and across, again, Stevens Pass and some areas up towards Snoqualmie Pass, and especially the higher terrain. Big snowfalls incoming, already underway as we speak. This is looking at Snoqualmie Pass, and again, around 7 inches here. Mount Baker ski area, I've been showing this the last few days. Pretty similar to what's been showing in the models, and Stevens Pass, something similar there. And again, once you get out of these pass areas across some of the higher terrain here, big snowfall amounts higher than what you're showing here in the pass. Now looking at the European, this is this morning's run. And so we're going to look at this system rolling through here, and you can see this finally pushing off to the south and east as we go on into Thursday morning, but still Montana is going to get plastered by this storm as well. Very cold out there, Arctic air mass, big snowfall totals sweeping through Yellowstone, Wyoming, and pushing off. And then we get this next little surge of Arctic air that tries to clip the area here and might kick off some showers. Then we get a break Sunday, Monday, and by the time we get towards Tuesday, we might start to bring some showers back in. And then as we go on towards the next week, we might turn warmer and wetter and maybe even windier here as we go on in towards early November. And that would be no surprise, or should be no surprise here to us across the Pacific Northwest, as November is typically one of our stormiest months here. So yeah, we may go from this chilly air mass to a much more warmer and wetter one. And now this is looking at things currently. You can see that low pressure center there. And what's driving this low pressure center is this cold Arctic air, like we mentioned, is pouring off the continent, driving that cyclogenesis and bringing this precipitation into the area here. And you can see this kind of sag south across British Columbia, the strong pressure gradients, what's kicking off those Fraser River Gap winds here. And you can see that Arctic air mass just hanging down across Idaho and Montana, going to bring some big snowfall amounts across some of the higher terrain there. And finally, that system kicks out of there. And then let's see if we can even see it. You can't even really see. There's just a tiny bit of subtle troughing. It's not even really showing up in the surface maps as another bit of Arctic air tries to move down across the area. It might bring a few more showers. But then as we go off into the extended a bit more in the GFS, you can see kind of some low pressure centers picking up here at the very end. This GFS is hot off the presses right now, as rolling in as I speak. If I update it, I bet we can get some more data on it there. And indeed we can. So let's scroll through there. You can kind of see the low pressure systems returning off the west coast here. This is purely a look off into fantasy there, but we'll pay more attention to that in the upcoming days. Now, looking at the European, this is the 18Z 2-meter temperature anomaly. And as you can see, what we've been talking about the last few days, we are going to be pretty chilly here, especially in the overnight and the early morning hours, and especially if we clear out for some of these overnight hours. And you can see the very cold air there across Montana, the Arctic air just locked in some places. Peg the scale here. The scale only goes to -33, and you can see some portions of western Montana and Idaho, Oregon, Washington well below normal, and Montana really in the icebox. Some places almost 40 degrees below normal. And look at that by the time we go towards Friday night, 42, 43 by Saturday morning. So some very intensely cold air here. And you can kind of see how we're kind of locked in this icy grip here across much of the Pacific Northwest. Also, this is Saturday morning. Much of the Pacific Northwest well below average. Saturday, Sunday morning, again, another pretty chilly morning there. And then maybe one more chilly morning there Monday before we start to finally moderate and warm up. But this is the 850 millibars, 500 feet here, and kind of showing you that upper level air here. And this line kind of marks where the freezing level is there. So you can see kind of this cold air just kind of hanging across the Pacific Northwest as we go through the week, and then finally kicking out maybe at the end, and we start to bring some warmer air on in from the west. Now, one more look here at the UW model. This is Washington State, 1.33 kilometer. Great with the terrain features there. You can see the big amounts across the higher terrain. But watch come at some of the lower elevations here off to the south and east of Lake Chelan. You can kind of see that easterly component might be piling up some of the snow out there that I mentioned earlier, especially places like Highway 2, maybe even getting down towards I-90 a little bit here as you're out towards George or Moses Lake. Maybe a little bit of snow flying there, maybe for Ellensburg also. Blewett Pass looks like it's going to be hit pretty hard here as well. So heads up if you're going out across Highway 97 Blewett Pass tomorrow morning. Some pretty heavy snowfall likely to be falling at that time. This is eastern Washington here. You can see Spokane, Pendleton, Boise, Missoula, Helena, Great Falls, and Bozeman there. And if we put this into motion, check out this swath of snowfall moving across Idaho, central Idaho, on and through Missoula, Helena, Great Falls, big snowfall amounts, especially if you get any kind of elevation. As you can see right now, not expecting snowfall down into the valley here for Boise, Twin Falls, Pocatello, maybe a trace right outside of Twin Falls, or maybe a little bit for Twin Falls here. But for the most part, this is a higher elevation snowstorm. And now looking at the NAM 3KM, this is 925 millibars. I wanted to show you guys this. This is 2,500 feet. This is current as we're going through this evening. Some pretty gusty winds roaring out of the northeast here. You can still see the southeast easterly component here coming up the Sound and across Whidbey Island towards the San Juans here. You can see the northeast winds off Vancouver Island wrapping back around the low pressure system. backing into the Pacific Northwest and Washington State here. And you can also, again, as you go into tomorrow morning, see that easterly component kicking into the Cascades there. And that's why we might get that enhanced snowfall there. But you can see these outflow winds go on in through tomorrow also, then finally relax a bit as we go on into Thursday, but then watch it kick back up as we go through Friday. Look at that. Another little shot of some Arctic air there. Probably mostly a dry intrusion. It may kick off a few showers here, but it should not be too big of a deal, but it will reinforce some of the cold air and keep us chilly through the weekend. But look at the 6 to 10 day. They updated this today, and you can see the return of some above average conditions here moving up the west coast. Above average precip is returned in the 6 to 10 day as well. 8 to 14 day, get this above average signal here now, and this is the early portion of November. And it could also be wet there also. So anyway, I wanted to get this video out here so you had something to watch. If you're not seeing it tonight, you'll be able to see it tomorrow morning. And hopefully I'll get some nice stuff out there, and I'll be able to go live and chat with you guys while I'm driving around trying to pick out some snow and see what's going on there. Maybe eastern Washington, east slopes of the Cascades there. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, hope you guys are liking the channel. Channel's doing great. Look forward to where it's going to go in the future. You know, with all the subscribers and just everybody who watches on a daily basis, you guys all make this possible. And my members also help out a great bit here. So you're much appreciated. Thank you very much. And I'll probably do a briefing tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening to wrap things up and take a look on into the future as well and kind of see what's still going on and see how the storm is evolving and what's going on across Pacific Northwest. So anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Leave some comments below, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.